Hi everybody, welcome to Story Time with the Captain. And I got my glass, my Beer glass, and I got my hat, and I got this at mmbeer.com, and it has a square cow on it. Anyways, today's story, this is weird, it's just really weird. Well, not weird, it's just normal stuff, but Lancaster Brewing Company Milk Stout. Lancaster, PA. All right. Brewed with milk and sugar. Okay. That's fine. Anyways, I didn't tell you what else about it. I can barely read it. 12 ounces. 5% alcohol. Pour in a pint glass. Color, black. 14 OG, 25 IBUs. Okay. Why is it where I grew up in two different houses, and the one house that we lived at, there was 8 of us, and that house where we all lived in, we had, I don't know, I can remember so freaking much, and I remember the other house too, but this house, I was 3 years old maybe, I started school at this house. And I remember so much. We had a barn. We didn't have any livestock, but I remember my dad splitting wood in the barn. I remember there being a bunch of cheap paper, those triangle paper kites, and like hundreds of them. I remember my brothers used to jump out of the top loft and out of the side, and we had green acres on the roof at one time. I don't know, my brothers painted it up there. A newspaper took a picture of it and says, it might have been at one time. No, it wasn't, but I remember my dad bringing home semi-trucks, because he worked in construction, and get bubbles off there, and we called it the Big Mad Truck, and it was an over cab, like the flat end, and I remember my brothers cutting a tree down in the back of the woods. It was a giant tree, I guess. I don't know if it's probably still there, rotted. I remember so much. I remember my dad having to kill the mother cat. We call it a mother cat. It was a cat that we had, I guess, that wasn't giving birth all the way to another cat. He went out there and to a kitten, and he shot and killed it. He had a military issue 45 from the Korean War. He shot and killed it. And then my older brother, he took the babies and put them in a bag and buried them alive. I remember him doing that and hitting the top of the dirt. I remember we had a Volkswagen wagon, Beetle wagon. I remember walking in the barn. I fell through up to my thing. There is so much I remember about this house. And I was so young. I remember how the house layout, the house is still there. I always wanted to stop in and say, hey, can I come to your house, And it's just really weird. I remember playing back in the woods. I remember finding coal back in the woods. I remember, just so much crap. I remember my mom, she would tuck us in bed, and her face and hands would be all swollen. We thought she was allergic to metal or something like that. Well, here it was the metal and a little iron in the water. She would swell up and get real red, and she'd have to put lotion on her hands all the time. Well, how can I remember so much stuff? I remember the dogs. We had Elton John and Midnight, and one time I don't know which one. I think it was Elton John. It was like the Black Lab was Midnight, and Elton John was like a golden retriever. I remember we were going out to the house out the front porch, and it was bloody. It was the dog was just bloody. I don't know if we got hit. I can't remember what my parents said. He got hit by a car, so my dad had to put him down. I remember my dad bringing home a bulldozer, and I was climbing on it. We were all climbing on this dang thing, and I was on the blade, and I fell back and cracked my head open, busted my head, and all I remember is running toward the house, yelling for my mom, and I had to have been this tall, and everything was vibrating. I remember everything was vibrating, and I remember going to the hospital, getting stitches in my head. I could feel them pinching. I remember my brother getting a concussion from this big, 6-inch PVC pipe hit him in the head. Because it was, they were like, what, 12 foot long, 10 foot long or something. Man. I remember getting my ass beat like I deserved it. We're out by the road. There was a kind of like a busy road, and I threw a rock and hit a car, and I ran into the house, and the car stopped, and yeah, I got my ass beat. Good for that one, my dad. I remember being out in that same place. I think there was a swing out front of the house, and I remember this. I distinctly remember this one time. This guy driving by. I don't know what it was, Halloween or what. Driving by, and he had a green face, like a monster face, just like an evil face. It was green. I remember a guy getting arrested out in front of the house. He ran into the ditch, and he says my brothers and sisters told me. He says he's seen a dog on a bicycle. That's why he went to avoid it and went down in the ditch. Oh my God, I remember so much. I remember my dad dug a pond in the backyard, a square. I think it was only like that deep. I think it was for like a skating rink or something like that. Because at our other house, he dug that, and it's still there to this day. There's just so much I remember. I remember my school. I remember my friends going there. And actually, I think one of my friends, I wonder if he's a radio DJ personality, because I was like in first grade when I met him. And I don't know what his last name, but I remember he was a black kid, and his name was Morris. And I wonder if he is Morris Ray on 570 WKBN, a local station here. Sometimes he's on the radio, and I wonder if it's that same guy. Anyways, but I remember my teachers. I remember so much. I remember throwing a butter knife at my sister, and my mom chasing me around the house, saying she's gonna chase me around the backyard, saying she's gonna cut my fingers off. I was like, I ran, man. I'm like, she's gonna cut my fingers off. I don't remember much of the basement. I don't remember much of the basement. I remember the fireplace. We had a fireplace. We had a screen in front of it. And I remember my brother quitting smoking. He threw a whole carton of Cool cigarettes. That's what he smoked. He threw that into the fireplace. And my dad splitting wood out in the barn. And it's funny how you smell a barn, and then years down the road, you can know that same smell. It takes you back to that day. Because my cousin bought a house, and it was burned out on the bottom floor. And I was helping him clean it up. And we went up to the second floor, then went up to the attic, because it was like a big area he was going to fix up. And as soon as we got to the attic, I smelled a smell that took me back to that house. And the playroom, we had a playroom on the second floor. And I remember that smell took me right back to that day. It's pretty, smells will do that. You like perfume or something like that, or a cologne that your dad wore when he passed away, or the old Zippo lighter that he would light cigarettes with. You smell that, boom, that would take you right back to when you were a kid, you know? But I just remember so much of that house. I would like to go back and ask them if I can go back into the woods. I was too small to go back into the woods. But I remember my brothers doing that with that tree. He says it took 3 of them to put their arms together to circle that tree, and they cut it down for whatever reason. I don't know. I remember my brother's friend riding his motorcycle over. I remember the girl down the street. I remember my brothers and sisters, we used to walk. It was in the wintertime, we used to walk out and go to this pond for ice skating. I was too young to ice skate, but they were ice skating. I remember doing that. Oh my God, I just remember so much crap. And the tree in the front yard is still there. The pine tree is still there to this day. And this was almost 50 years ago. Yeah. So there you go. I mean, it just, that house, I think they would like, no, you ain't coming in this house. You ain't gonna look at the house or whatever. I remember my sister was choking and my dad was hitting her on the back. I remember being out in the dog house, and we had a bunch of family members over, a reunion or something. I'm not sure, and we had to go in and get the picture. I have that picture. I had to go in and take a picture with all the cousins and nephews and aunts and uncles and everything. I remember Shrinky Dinks. When they first came out, my sisters had those ones. You put them in the oven and they shrink down and stuff. Yeah, it's just, I remember the layout of the house too. I remember falling down the stairs. I was doing something. I was falling the stairs to go upstairs. I was punished for doing something. And I was doing something on the steps. And I ended up sliding and rolling down the steps and busting the door open. My dad picked me up and kicked me in the ass and to get back upstairs. It's funny how I got my 100 million, or was it $1 million bill? Yeah, it's a certificate we got at that house, and I still have it. I don't know if it's real, I don't know if it's fake, I don't know anything about it, but it's just something my dad gave me, and I've had it since. Just so much stuff I remember at a house that I was so little. I don't remember this much stuff when I was 18, living at home. But I remember all this stuff that happened. It was crazy, and I remember sitting around the chair, and we were talking to our dad, trying to convince him to move, to go to our old house. We moved back into our old house, because that's where he was raised. And he had a semi-trailer, tractor trailer we used to move, and just, oh my God, I remember my cousins taking my sister, going to Lake Erie, and I sat there and cried and cried and cried and cried. I don't know how long I was sitting out there just crying my eyes out. My parents didn't give a crap. It scared me for no. And I remember playing with fireworks, my firecrackers, and little bubble things you get out of the gumball machines. They had the plastic bubble. We put a hole and put a fuse up through the firecracker. The firecracker fuse up through the hole in the bottom. We covered it up, and we were going to light it. And my uncle was there, and my cousin was going to light it. I said, "He's crazy." He goes, "That's my son you're talking about." I was like, "Yeah, I know." He took it like literally. I thought he was insane. Idiot. But anyways, yeah, it's just funny how I just remember all that stuff, and just I remember my mom would fly a kite. She flew a kite, I don't know how many thousands of feet, and left it tied up overnight, tied to a well. We had a well out in the backyard, and we had it hooked up, a big cast iron bathtub in there, and we had that dang thing, and it broke overnight or something like that, or I don't know what happened, if the string broke or what, but yeah, that was a long dang time ago. Yeah. But it's amazing how you can remember stuff from back then. That long ago. I just remember so much about that house. Yeah, there you go. I'm done. That's what I remember about that house. Just so much stuff. I remember bushes, and be hiding in the bushes and using like a fort. And it just going back in the woods, like in the grass. There was like a field of grass back there. We used to play around in that dang thing. Oh well, that's about it. That's just my stupid story time of when I was like 3 to 5, maybe 6 years old. I remember so much of this house, but the house that I grew up in after that, for the majority of my childhood and some of my adulthood, I don't remember that much. It's just crazy. Well, I do remember some stuff, but it's just crazy. Anyways, there you go. That's it. Let me know if you have the same thing. You remember everything about that house, but now it's just weird how you can. I don't know. Maybe that bulldozer cracking my head open knocked a bunch of stuff in there. It's supposed to knock it out, not in. I don't know. Anyways, there you go. Remember, say when. Know when to say when. There you go. Cheers.